Who do you think is the least popular Pokemon? If you said Trumbeak, then congratulations! You are Bulbapedia, the free Pokemon encyclopedia. Yes, you! Every Pokemon has a dedicated article on Bulbapedia, but some receive far less traffic than others. The Pokemon that make up the 60 least visited pages on the site could therefore be considered the least popular Pokemon by this one specific metric. I use this list as the basis for my Nuzlocke of Pokemon White, where I managed to beat the game using only these ragtag rejects. And having conquered White 1, it's time for me to take on the sequel. In this Nuzlocke challenge, if my Pokemon faints, they are considered dead forever, and I can only use Pokemon from Bulbapedia's least visited articles in major battles. For example, Pignite is eligible, but Tepig and Emboar are not. So while I can use my starter against generic trainers, he'll have to evolve into Pignite before he can participate in any gym battles, rival battles, or the 50 fights against Inzolan. The rest of the rules are listed in the video description. Now the run doesn't officially start until I get Pokeballs, which is good because my rival's Oshawott landed a critical hit and took out our starter in the very first battle. But we had no Pokeballs, so it doesn't count. Our totally not deceased Tepig is named Buffalo after the superior wing sauce. I'm employing the same naming scheme as my White 1 Nuzlocke, nicknaming my team members after stuff I like as a way of endearing myself to a roster of Pokemon I'm not particularly fond of. Case in point, our first eligible encounter, Alright! Our last Patrat met an unfortunate fate, but her sister here is more than willing to carry on the rodent legacy. Welcome to the team, Baja Blast. She's more than capable of carrying us through the early game by beating up our rival at Flossessie Ranch, beating up the kids at Alder's house, and beating up an absurd number of her own brethren in order to harvest attack EVs from their deceased souls. Don't let her bashful nature fool you, Baja is a cold-blooded killer. Now, I can tell that you, the viewer, have been aching to have a very specific question answered for a while now, if you're not just pretend you are for the sake of this video's flow. You've probably been wondering, am I playing on challenge mode? No, I am not. Here's why. I have a level cap rule in place for this run, meaning my Pokemon cannot exceed the level of the next gym leader's strongest Pokemon. That's bad because Tepig doesn't evolve into Pignite until level 17, which means Buffalo is prohibited from participating in our first gym battle. And due to how barren our early game encounters are, the only Pokemon I'm allowed to bring against Cheren is Baja Blast the Patrat. In normal mode, Cheren has a Patrat of his own, plus the aforementioned Lillipup. This is already a pretty daunting prospect for our singular rat, but in challenge mode, Cheren has a third Pokemon on his team. I do not think it is possible for a lone Patrat to solo Cheren's challenge mode squad without some absurd luck, either through accuracy shenanigans or extremely generous move selection by Cheren. And frankly, I don't want to sit here spamming Sand Attack until I get the perfect string of RNG to clutch out a win. Stop! Instead, I'm gonna prepare Baja as best I can for her solo expedition. I've given her as many attack EVs as I possibly could by this point in the game, and given her an Oran Berry to hold. Finally, to give Baja an extra jolt of power during the fight, I edged her. Wait, let me explain. Edging in Nuzlocke terms refers to entering a battle with a Pokemon's EXP bar as close to the next level as possible. In this case, Baja will be rolling up to the Cheren fight at the level cap of 13, but will have enough EXP to level up to 14 after knocking out his lead Pokemon. I don't usually do this in my Nuzlockes, but it's perfectly within the bounds of the rules I've laid out. Also, I'm trying to beat this gym with a lone Patrat who has single-digit attack and speed IVs. Cut me some slack. The battle begins with Baja Blast barreling into her foe with Tackle. Fortunately, Cheren's Patrat wastes a turn using Workup, allowing us to down his first Pokemon for free the following turn. In comes Lillipup, who also uses Workup to boost its attack. Baja responds with Tackle, but due to her poor genetics, she can't even bring Pup below half. The dog and the rodent then trade tackles, with Lillipup's HP falling into the red. This prompts Cheren to pop a potion that doesn't heal nearly enough, because another tackle from Baja brings Lillipup back into KO range. All we need to do now is survive one more tackle, and Baja will be able to secure the KO. But this is an eerily similar situation to the one our last Patrat faced, and things did not end well there. Will Baja Blast be able to secure us the first gym badge, or will she be doomed to the same fate as her predecessor? There's only one way to find out. Baja Blast hangs on for dear life, clutching it up with just 4 HP remaining before landing the killing blow and earning us gym badge number 1. Spectacular job, Baja. I think you'll carry on the legacy of our original band of misfits quite nicely. Speaking of old friends, one of them is waiting for us in the dark grass of Route 20. Food the Whirlipede didn't do much of anything in our White 1 run, but she's back as a Venipede this time to get her licks in early. Welcome back to the fold, Food. Man, these nicknames make me seem like a real fat ass. We arrive at Verbank City, one of the best examples of Generation 5's timeless presentation. Fantastic music, a one-of-a-kind atmosphere, and I get to witness Roxy and her dad have a falling out under a melancholic downpour. BW2 is so good, man. It deserves to be in the S tier of Pokemon games. Now, I'm sure you all have a certain question lingering on your minds. Again, just pretend you do, even if you don't. You might be thinking, is this Nuzlocke of White 2 any different from the White 1 run? After all, won't I just be using the exact same subset of least popular Pokemon as the last time? Wrong! I actually have even less Pokemon available this time. Gothorita is a Black 2 version exclusive, and Servine is off the table since I chose Tepig as my starter. But that's not all, because for some reason Heatmore and the entire Palpitoad line are unavailable in White 2 until the post-game, meaning I only have 18 eligible Pokemon for use, counting evolutionary lines as 1 entry each. That's less than the already meager offerings of White 1. Keep in mind that our encounters also include guys such as Fungus and Cubchoo, who'd be better off entering battles on a T so their opponents can punt them more easily. But that's okay, because our team is currently 3 strong and should remain that way for the foreseeable future. Because I won't be getting any new team members until Nimbasa City. Technically, my next encounter will be Dwebble at the Desert Resort, but I won't be able to use it in major battles until it evolves into Crustle at level 34, by which time I'll already have 5 gym badges. Therefore, my actual next encounter will be Panpour at the Lost Lorn Forest, and that's a long ways away. I hope you like the 3 Musketeers here, because they're all you'll be seeing until Nimbasa. Fortunately, the new level cap means I can evolve Buffalo into Pignite, finally making him eligible to participate in major battles. Right on time as well, because it's gonna take a combined effort from him and Baja Blast to take down Roxy. Food will be cheering him on from the sidelines. Roxy leads off with Coughing, whose base 95 defense poses an issue for our physically inclined team. I decide to send out Baja first, whose job will be to wear down Coughing as best she can before Buffalo takes the stage. She successfully puts Coughing to sleep with Hypnosis, then unleashes consecutive tackles before the Smoke Ball wakes up. Thankfully, Insurance doesn't do too much, meaning we can keep at this war of attrition even after Roxy pops a super potion. Baja blasts Coughing with another Hypnosis and again gets off 2 free tackles before her foe awakens. Despite Coughing's best efforts, Baja perseveres and eventually manages to knock out her opponent with just 10 HP remaining. The stage is set for Roxy's Whirlipede, but it's also prime time for Buffalo to make his entrance. He comes in on a Venoshock that takes 1/4 of his health, but it's no biggie because Buffalo's got the bulk to tag a couple more hits. Unless, of course, Whirlipede lands a critical hit that drops our starter into KO range. But that also means Buffalo is low enough for his Blaze ability to activate, boosting the power of Flame Charge enough that he can finish off Whirlipede for the 2nd gym badge. Looks like someone's been taking notes from their teammate. Might as well call this trio the Big 3 because every member's come up huge when the lights are at their brightest. Except you, Food. Don't worry though, I'm sure you'll get your chance soon. For now though, we get to experience the mandatory Pokestar Studio segment. I love it when the game's pacing is grinded to a halt by the introduction of side content, causing me to resent the relatively harmless minigame due to its disruptiveness rather than any of its actual traits. Is what I would say if Pokestar Studios wasn't so boring. I take it back, BW2 sucks, put it in F tier. After crushing Papa Roxy's dreams, we force him back to his 9 to 5 so we can catch a boat to the big city. In the damp and dingy sewers, we give chase to a couple of terrorists and pick up a few useful items. We also accumulate enough EXP to evolve Baja Blast into Watchog and Food into Whirlipede, the latter of which is now finally eligible for major battles. Neither of those two will be partaking in our fight against Berg, however, because Buffalo can solo this thing on his own. He torches Swadloon, outlasts Dwebble in a war of attrition, and completely eviscerates Leavanny to earn us the 3rd gym badge. We've got some time to spare, so why not celebrate our win by exploring everything Castelia City has to offer? There's so much to do. Visit a swanky cafe, receive useful gifts, get flashed in a dark alleyway, you know, the same big city staples as always. Unfinished construction, the highway, and the ruins of civilization outside the larger city. If Castelia is New York, then Route 4 is New Jersey. And the Desert Resort is MetLife Stadium. I don't know, this comparison is a mess. Like the Jets. It is also on Route 4 that we have the first of many battles against the enigmatic Colress. When I was younger, I mistakenly thought his name was Corliss and didn't realize my mistake until years later. Honestly, that would have been a way cooler name for him, because his actual name makes him sound like a perk on an RPG armor piece. Cold resistance and his Pokemon don't put up much of a fight, which means we can waltz over to the arid hellscape masquerading as a resort to pick up Dwebble. We'll need to wait for the level cap to increase past level 38, but once it does, we'll be able to welcome basketball back into the fold. Speaking of basketball, I gotta go check if the Raps won. No, that's just a message telling people to like and subscribe. Nope, that's the name of the channel, members. Although if you want to get your name in a future video, you could also become a member. Just saying. Anyways, I need to see if the Raptors won. Aw, dang it. Anyway, we have more pressing matters to deal with. We gotta go cheer on the Mets, baby. Let's go get a home run, baby. Love the Mets. Go Mets. Nah, but seriously, we need to make preparations for a potentially brutal gym battle against Alessa. Her platoon of speedy electric types can wipe the floor with the big three. But fortunately, it's not just gonna be the three of them any longer, because to the east of Nimbasa City is the Lost Lorn Forest, where we can add a trio of familiar simians to our ragtag bunch. All I gotta do is run around for 30 minutes, praying they show up in the shaking grass, but I do eventually acquire all three of the monkeys. Turquoise the Panpour is back with his signature blend of speed and scald. He has gotten noticeably more gentle since last run, but he's still a beast in battle. Book the Panseer, who landed the final blow on Getsis in our previous Nuzlocke, has also returned. He's quicker than ever and has studied up to make his flame burst burn even brighter. And finally, we have... Wait, who are you? Earl Grey, the Simisage from our previous run, won't be assisting us in this Nuzlocke because he's dead. Instead, Mango the Pansage will be serving as our seed-slinging primate for this run. She got her nickname from the fact that passion fruit green tea with lychee jelly is too long to fit. Unfortunately, by our rules, Pansage is ineligible until it evolves, so Mango will be sitting out the Alessa fight. However, there's a hidden Firestone in New Jersey, the Desert Resort, which Book can use to evolve into Simisear just in time to reprise his role as the Alessa killer. Book's high special attack for this point in the game, combined with his held charcoal, give him an approximate 30% chance of one-shotting Alessa's lead Emolga with Flame Burst. Of course, a critical hit will do the job as well. Book fishes for another 1-hit KO on Flaffy, but Flame Burst barely misses out on the kill. Flaffy then deals significant damage in return with Volt Switch to drag in Sepstrika, who also gets off its own Volt Switch to bring Book dangerously low. On a positive note, Flaffy is thrown back into the fire and gets promptly torched by Book's second crit of the battle. Book is too low to contribute anymore though, so he takes out for Baja Blast, who takes a rough Sepstrika Volt Switch on the way in, and another the following turn before she can even muster a Super Fang. Unfortunately, some of that damage dealt by Baja is nullified when Alessa's Ace chomps down on its berry to restore some HP. Now Baja's too low to stay in, so I switch to Food. But Sepstrika must have a third eye or something because it nails Food with a super effective Flame Charge on the switch in. The damage is manageable, but the accompanying speed boost puts Sepstrika in the speed tier far out of reach for our squad. I click Protect to confirm that Volt Switch is coming next turn, and it is, so I let Food grit her teeth and tank the hit. She manages to hang on with just 13 HP, then retaliates with Poison Tail to bring Sepstrika below half. No poison, unfortunately. We are now entering a very precarious situation. Book and Baja Blast are out of commission, and Turquoise will explode the moment he touches the battlefield. Ignore Mango, I brought her to this fight by accident, and remember, she's ineligible to participate. That just leaves us with two options. The first is to send in Buffalo and cross our fingers that Sepstrika doesn't high roll or crit, or we could go for the safer second option, the sacrifice. When I said you'd have your moment, Food, I didn't think it'd be like this. Nevertheless, I'm strangely happy for you. You no longer have to feel like the third wheel. You can cement your deserved place among the big three alongside your best friends. And isn't that what you wanted all along? Blinded by grief for his fallen companion, Buffalo barges into battle and fires off a flame charge to finish Sepstrika once and for all. Did you really think that damn zebra would fold so easily? Not only does Zebstrika hang on with a micro hair of HP, but it gets healed to full the following turn. Our plus-size Pugilist can't even muster enough strength to bring Zebstrika below half, which spells doom for us. If the previous situation was precarious, the current one is catastrophic. If Zebstrika high rolls or lands a crit, then Buffalo will fall and the rest of our team will probably follow. But if Buffalo lives, well, we'll see about that. The fate of this entire run rests on your shoulders, Buffalo. Buffalo challenges his fate, finishing off Zebstrika with a blaze-boosted flame charge to avenge his fallen friend. Still, despite the win, I feel like Food's sacrifice deserves to be properly eulogized. If only there was a person in the area who could help. Someone with a way with words that cut deep into the soul. Driftvale's famous heartbreaker Charles blocks the way to the city he's from. We are now permitted to cross the Driftvale drawbridge. I've already poked my fun at this shaky claim of resembling Charizard, so I would instead like to highlight this random woman on the bridge. She says that Driftvale is famous for 3 things: the drawbridge, the Pokemon World Tournament, and Charles. Poor Clay, imagine funding a full-scale revitalization of your city by building multiple luxury hotels and the PWT, only to lose top billing in your own city to a guy who recites poetry on his motorbike. At least Clay can lay claim to a cool hat. Speaking of Clay, we need an answer for his ground types. An unevolved turquoise ain't gonna cut it, but I have no clue where to get a water stone in white too. Good thing we have the internet for that. Let me just look it up real quick. Route 19, no, that one requires surf, which we don't have yet. And these dust cloud locations are not reliable, so is there another place that I could get them? Maybe I could like buy a water stone? Oh no. I can appreciate what battle facilities such as the Battle Tower and Battle Subway can offer, but they are not for me. Never got the appeal, never will. That's why I've been avoiding the Battle Subway like the plague, since I didn't think I'd ever have a reason to subject myself to 7 consecutive kerfuffles of mind-numbing midness. Also because we have a decent chance of losing party members here, but I end up trudging through and get rewarded with a measly 3 BP, just enough to purchase a single water stone. Savor this stone well, Turquoise. I had to do something mildly inconvenient that took up a small percentage of my overall playtime to get this, aka the worst thing ever. Now that Turquoise is fully evolved, I ought to do the same for Mango, but I do not want to spend even a nanosecond longer in Gear Station. So is there another place where I can find a leaf stone? Good thing we have the internet for that. Lostlorn Forest?
Pansage is ineligible until it evolves, so Mango will be sitting out the Alessa fight.
Before we can storm into Clay's gym, we need to visit the dwellings of a group of former Team Plasma members. I really like this aspect of Black and White 2 actually. Showing the fractured halves of Team Plasma interacting reinforces the evil delusion of the current members and the rehabilitation efforts of the former members. Rude is also an exemplary demonstration of what the game is trying to say, because his motive for battling you is fueled by an earnest desire to not just understand you as a trainer, but to understand the bonds between people and Pokemon better that he was blind to in the past. It's a genuinely rousing display of how people who've wronged others can still try to make amends and atone for their past, as long as they put their heart into changing themselves. But the ramifications of your actions are permanent. No matter how much different you believe things to be in the future, you are doomed to repeat the same mistakes as long as the scars of your past continue to haunt your victims. Time is an endless march to infinity, and nothing you do between your meaningless birth and inevitable demise matters. Man, if there's someone I feel sorry for about this, it's Buffalo. Losing 2 close friends in such a short period of time can really do a number on someone mentally. I ought to give him some time to himself. Fortunately, it just so happens that we have 2 new encounters available on Route 6 to fill in the vacancies in our roster. Gambling the Fungus and Rune the Tranquil are here to do little more than fill space until they're inevitably moved to the bench. With all of that out of the way, we can finally make our way down to the Driftvale City Gym, which I find vastly inferior to its iteration from Black and White 1. The new layout is cramped, dingy, and not fun to navigate in the slightest, but the music slaps, so I'm moving the game up a tier. Before we enter entered this gym, our rival said that even if all you have to use against ground types is water types, it'll be tough. About that. Turquoise outruns every member of Clay's team, and his Mystic Water boosted skulls can one-shot every member of Clay's team as well. In just 3 turns, we obtained the easiest gym badge of the entire run so far. Now give me your hat, Clay! Now it's time for the tournament arc! The Pokemon World Tournament is hype, but only in the post-game, once you get to fight a bunch of iconic characters from previous Pokemon games. And Byron. Right now, all we have is the Driftvale Tournament, which consists of battles against our rival, Charon and Coldrez, all of whom are woefully underleveled compared to us right now, so as a result, the most interesting thing about the PWT isn't the battles, but the epilepsy-inducing screen above the main entrance. After boarding and promptly getting booted off the Plasma Airship, it's time for us to enter the mid-game stretch. I despise this section in the original games for its numerous tedious dungeons, but thankfully BW2 fixes a lot of that by adding more interesting scenery, killing Twist Mountain in cold blood, and bestowing multiple new encounters upon us. Firstly, with the level cap increase, Basketball can finally evolve into Crustle and become eligible. Secondly, we can utilize our newfound ability to surf to obtain Anime the Alomomola, a bench warmer in our previous run who might provide some more value this time. Finally, there's Sandwich the Clink, who can immediately evolve into the eligible Clang. This is one of 2 highlights in the otherwise overrated Chargestone Cave, the other being a cameo from the Costco guys. Also, as of May 2025, Clang is actually the least popular Pokemon on Bulbapedia now. With Midstone Cave in the rear view mirror, we can step foot into Mistralton City and beeline towards the gym. I gotta give props to Scarlet here. She managed to design a new gym layout that's somehow even more life-threateningly dangerous than the previous one. As for the strategy I'll be employing against the flying type specialist, it'll be the exact same one from the White 1 run. Charge Beam Sandwich. No, that is not a Pokemon themed food item. That's Sandwich the Clang leading off against Skyla Swoobat, who outspeeds us and hits us with Heart Stamp. Not surprising since Sandwich has a speed IV of 0, but it's able to connect with Charge Beam and get a special attack boost. That gives Sandwich the extra firepower it needs to clip Swoobat's wings the following turn. For some reason, Skyla tosses out Swanna next, who promptly gets obliterated by a single Charge Beam. Now at +2 special attacks, Sandwich is free to take its time and toy with Skarmory for a bit, before finally shooting down the Steel Bird and securing us a stress-free victory. To the east of Mistralton is Route 7, where we could potentially grab some new encounters. The first is Cubchoo, who we'll be skipping because it can only be found in the winter and because it's Cubchoo. The second potential encounter is Blitzel, but that requires us to catch a Zepstrika on Route 7 and breed it to produce a Blitzel as its offspring. Frankly, that's way too much effort for a Mon that won't see any use at this stage of the game, so sorry writing, you'll be sitting this one out. Also, for some reason, my in-game mother calls me on Route 7 to flex her former job as a Pokemon Center receptionist. Literally, that's it. It has no bearing on the story whatsoever. It's just mom humble bragging for some reason. Anyway, it's time to visit the worst location in all of Unova. I hate Celestial Tower for a myriad of reasons, but Professor Juniper is thankfully on the ground floor, meaning all we have to do to progress the story is walk inside, talk to her, and then walk out. Now this is why I prefer the BW2 iteration over BW1, because you aren't required to climb Celestial Tower whatsoever. Haha, put this game back in S tier. Welcome to Lentimus Town, a charming little village that doesn't offer much more than aesthetics and vibes. The same could be said about Reversal Mountain, but the presence of Bianca to heal our Pokemon after every fight, and the neat aesthetic differences between versions help push this dungeon above its peers in my eyes. Also, I love the redundant little cliffside whose sole purpose is to inform you that the Shadow Ball TM is hidden behind a strange house. Speaking of the strange house, we can ignore the implication that an innocent girl died in these walls and pick up World Peace to Solosis, who we can immediately evolve into Duosion. She'll be waiting in the wings for now, but she'll be back. Duosion, I mean, not the ghost girl, she's already dead. We emerge from Reversal Mountain in the pristine seaside oasis that is Undella Town. Our rival challenges us to another battle here, but Sandwich makes quick work of his team without batting an eye. Even though we're supposed to head north of Undella to our next destination, I make a quick detour to the south to pay visit to a historic Unovan national landmark. please remember to take your hats off to show respect. It was around this point that I began feeling the crushing length of the interval between gyms 6 and 7. There's just so many places we gotta go through. Fortunately, it does give our squad of doofuses a chance to relax before the brutal stretch ahead. Oh, let me just scoot right by you there, Cobalion. As punishingly lengthy as this portion of White 2 is, these next few locales are near and dear to me. Lacunosa Town is a charmingly compact settlement with amazing music, intriguing lore, and almost no crime to speak of. This is just Unova before the events of Persona 4. Route 12 is a simple yet gorgeous clearing with rolling hills, that iconic East Unova route theme, and some sweet encounters, none of which are eligible for this Nuzlocke unfortunately. Village Bridge is legitimately beautiful. The architecture, the quaint theme, the 4 musicians scattered around the bridge who add additional layers to the music and make it even more exquisite than it already is. I love Generation 5, man. Put this game in double S tier. And don't forget about the old man on a 999 win streak who challenges you in the middle of the bridge, and whose Japanese name is Gojo. Oh, let me just scoot right by you there, Verzion. And finally, our destination, Opaloosid City. A timeless snapshot of yesteryear that is way better than its black version counterpart. The futuristic rendition of Opaloosid feels like some sort of elaborate gentrification. The most daunting gym in all of Unova also awaits us in Opaloosid. Literally, one wrong step here and you could fall to your death. Or one wrong input on a dragon statues and you could turn your opponent into a red stain on the wall. As I prepare for the Drayden fight, I have a few important things I need to mention. Firstly, we lack an ice type Pokemon. In our White 1 run, we had Fire Emblem the Vanillish to sweep through the dragons, but in White 2, the Icy Cone isn't available until Giant Chasm, so no Vanillish this time. Secondly, I just lied to you. Not about the Vanillish part, that still holds. I mean the part about lacking an ice type Pokemon, because we do have one available. In fact, it is the only encounter in White 2 that wasn't available in White 1. Celio, an ice water type Pokemon who can be caught in Undella Bay. However, I mistakenly wrote down in my notes that Celio isn't available until around the 8th gym. As a result, I did not consider using Celio against Drayden and did not even realize my mistake until I was already scripting. So now you might be asking, Toad, if you didn't bring Celio to the fight, who did you bring? Yeah, so I thought, Alola has a gargantuan HP pool and wish, so maybe he could do something useful. Why am I a Minecraft villager? Throw in the usual suspects and voila, here's our team for the Drayden fight. Yeah, we might be screwed. No one to blame but myself though. Not just for the lackluster team we brought, but also the fact that I forgot to equip Eviolite onto Sandwich. Our gear-shaped goofball is instead entering this gym battle holding a magnet. Whoops. Druddigon lands the first hit, but that's what I planned for originally because it allows Sandwich to get off a slow volt switch and safely bring in Basketball. She smashes her shell for some stat boosts, and despite Druddigon retaliating with a super effective revenge, it does negligible damage and gets partially healed off by Basketball's held leftovers. She then makes it rain rocks, rendering Druddigon deceased. Flygon comes out next, and Basketball fails to secure the one-hit KO, forcing her to eat a nasty earth power that drops her HP below half. Fortunately, Drayden spends a turn healing, allowing us to connect with 2 consecutive X Scissors to finish off Flygon. That just leaves the nuclear level threat that is Haxorus. Despite lacking an Eviolite, Sandwich can still switch in and sponge a hit. That being Dragon Tail, which forces Sandwich off the battlefield and book onto it. Not the best team member to drag in, but he can at least click Yawn while Haxorus uses the first of its dreaded dragon dances. I opt to send in Sandwich again, expecting a mighty hit to follow, but Haxorus instead goes for a second dragon dance before succumbing to Yawn and falling asleep. My options at this point are as follows. First, I could switch to someone else and risk them getting blown up if Haxorus awakens immediately. None of my switch-ins would be able to one-shot Haxorus, including Turquoise's Blizzard. So I go for the second option, which is to keep Sandwich in and deal as much damage as possible before Haxorus wakes up and starts swinging. So far so good, as Sandwich gets a shot in as Haxorus keeps on snoring. But Gear Grind fails to bring the dragon below half, and time's up! Haxorus is wide awake, but opts to go for Dragon Dance a third time, allowing Sandwich to trigger Haxorus' Citrus Berry while still bringing it into KO range. We now stand on the precipice of ultimate glory or total despair. If Sandwich can survive a mighty Haxorus hit, we can stamp this battle and ship it. But if Haxorus crits with Dragon Tail, Sandwich will die, and Haxorus' increased speed will allow it to run over the rest of our team. Either way, it all rides upon you, Sandwich. Brace yourself, because Haxorus is gonna move first and Uses Dragon Dance a 4th time. Sandwich doesn't waste its opportunity, connecting with 2 hits of Gear Grind to slay the dragon and win us the battle. Why did Haxorus do that? Actually, it's really simple once you bring up the counts. It turns out at +3 attack, Haxorus still doesn't have enough damage to KO Sandwich without a crit. That's why it used Dragon Dance a 4th time, and even then it still doesn't have a guaranteed kill at +4. So for all we know, Sandwich could have had multiple opportunities to win the fight even if it missed Gear Grind once or twice. Regardless, I applaud Sandwich for a job well done, especially considering it did all of this with the wrong held item. This effort might be the most representative of our entire squad. Even when things aren't perfect and even when they're counted out, they always find a way to save the day.
Now save this one, idiots! Terrorist blast!
By attacking Opelucid City, Team Plasma has declared war on the Unova region, and it's up to us to put a stop to their nefarious schemes. Also, the Shadow Triad's theme sounds like the music they play at a basketball game to hype up the crowd. Come on, ref, that was a foul. The next leg of our journey takes us to the gorgeous marine tube, though for some reason I barely saw any fish on my way through. Maybe they're just scared of us, considering what would occur moments later at the Humalao gym. Mango finally got her chance to spin this run and did not take our opportunity for granted, bombarding Caracosta with a flurry of seed bombs until it finally went down. Another seed bomb popped Wailord like a balloon, and when faced with Marlin's signature Jellicent, Mango pulled the trigger and toppled her foe with a single critical hit. That's the final gym badge earned off the back of our Verdant Primate. That allows us to begin the most redundant section of Black and White 2. First, we have to head north to Route 22 to shake hands with Terrakion, during which Cold Cut strolls over and is like, "Wow, you have such a firm handshake. You know what else is firm? The Crustal squatting inside Seaside Cave. But don't worry, I have a solution to that," he says as he hands us a device that explodes the moment after we use it to move the Crustal. Then we board the Plasma Frigate and battle some grunts and obtain a password to open an electric gate before being confronted by Zinzolin, who we handily defeat before we're booted off the ship by the Shadow Triad. Then we return to Route 22, shake Terrakion's hand again, and enter the giant chasm. It is here we can finally pick up Fire Emblem the Vanillish and witness some infighting before we board the Plasma Frigate and battle some grunts to obtain a password to open an electric gate before being confronted by Zinzolin, whom we handily defeat. What's the point of the entire Seaside Cave section? Why not just have us go to Route 22, meet Bullcut, and then go straight to the giant chasm? This game is dumb, man. Put it in Z tier. Alright, enough complaining. I'm gonna take out my frustration on Cool Ranch, whose Legion of Steel types is making Book real hungry. Unfortunately, the rest of our team doesn't do so hot against them, so we need a secondary fire type as backup. You know what that means? It's finally time to bring Buffalo off the bench and back onto the front lines. Sandwich, who is actually holding an Eviolite this time, leads off against Coal Pit's Magneton with the express purpose of baiting in Magnezone. Sure enough, it works, and this allows Sandwich to use its own Volt Switch to bring in Book scot-free. That crucial chip damage means Magnezone doesn't have Sturdy available anymore, allowing Book to melt through it with a single charcoal boosted Flame Burst. Matan comes out just to get fried as well, and so does Kling Klang. Behem can survive one bite, but flinches, ensuring Book can remain fully healthy as he downs the penultimate threat. By the time Magneton hits the field again, victory is all but assured for Book. A Flame Burst brings Magneton down to 1 HP, activating Sturdy before Book gets paralyzed. But he's such a beast of a unit that he not only hits through paralysis once to undo the effects of the healing potion used on Magneton, but hits again through the paralysis to close the book on this chapter. A pretty easy fight. We didn't even need to use Buffalo. And as tragic as our rival's whole Lipard saga is, we have much bigger issues to worry about ourselves. An angry white guy. A really angry white guy. The upcoming fight against Getsis was one of the most challenging fights to prepare for in this run, alongside Sharon and someone yet to be revealed. Part of that is because every member of Getsis' team is capable of going on a run against us. Another part is our own personnel being ill-equipped to handle the specific assortment of foes. A Thrower Bouffalant would be splendid right now, but they aren't available until right after this battle. We just gotta roll up with what we have and pray it all works out. Before we fight the angry green-haired man, however, we have to subjugate this intimidating Poke Fusion. Our game plan against Kyurem White will depend on what move it chooses, and it ends up choosing Slash, our ideal outcome, because Basketball can shrug off the hit, use one Shell Smash, and then one-shot Kyurem with a single Rock Slide. Easy work. However, since Basketball was our leadoff against K White, she is also forced to lead off against Ghetsis' Kofagrigus, whatever. She opens the battle with a Shell Smash and cures the incoming Toxic with her held Pecha Berry. It may seem odd that I opt to go for a second Shell Smash, thus letting Basketball end up badly poisoned anyway. That is because at +4 attack and speed, Basketball now has the wheels and the guns to take down Kofagrigus, Seismitoad, and Hydreigon with a single attack each. By the time Drapion hits the field, we've already mowed down half of Ghetsis' team, although the poison damage has become too severe to keep Basketball out any longer. I bring in Mango expecting an Earthquake from Drapion, however, Basketball's HP was so low that the enemy AI will instead pick from any of its moves that could kill, not just super effective ones. That is why Mango ends up eating an X-Scissor on the way in. Fortunately, her health stays in the green despite the super effective hit. Now Drapion sees Poison Fang, which gives me a free switch to Sandwich, who can also tank an Earthquake before getting off its patented slow volt switch to bring in Turquoise. He needs 2 Surfs to get the KO, but can accomplish that since Night Slash didn't crit. In comes the Electros, who is a matchup nightmare for us since our only electric resist Mango will fold to a single flamethrower from the eel. Still, I bring her in because she's our only option to tank Thunderbolt and we can just switch out later. Mango eats the hit and survives. No! Flying Gem boosted acrobatics from Mango was gonna be our answer for Toxicroak, but that plan is off the table now that she's paralyzed and her speed is halved. But we first gotta focus on defeating Electros, so I delay my dread and switch to Book, who takes about half from acrobatics. Book's Flame Burst brings the Electros to half, while acrobatics knocks Book onto his knees. Fortunately, he has the speed to shoot past the Electros and banish it to a fiery end the following turn. That just leaves Toxicroak, and with our original plan off the table, we need to resort to gambling. Sandwich has just enough health that we could afford to switch into a move, then tank another before volt switching out. But since Mango is low, Toxicroak will play the random kill move game, meaning we have a 1 in 4 chance of switching Sandwich directly into Brick Break. I think that's a risk worth taking. Book tags out, Sandwich tags in, and well, on the one hand, Sandwich is still with us, but on the other hand, our options have dwindled considerably. We don't have anyone who can one-hit KO Toxicroak, but we do have several beaten and battered members capable of outrunning the Poison Frog. All we need is for someone to soften up Toxicroak first so it can be revenge killed. But that means someone has to take one for the team, and that task will fall upon the only healthy member remaining. Buffalo switches in and takes just under 50% from Brick Break, but it doesn't matter because this is the end of the road for our starter. Despite everything we've been through, it's time for us to say goodbye to him. I'm sorry it had to come to this, buddy, but it's poetic in a way. You'll finally be able to see your old friends again, Buffalo. Are you ready for some football? Tonight, on the road to the Elite Four, we finally snag our last 2 encounters on Route 23. First is Football the Bouffalant, a scrappy, high motor type of mon with deceptive speed. A real lunch pail guy, first in, last out of the practice facility kind of guy. A really poor matchup against the Elite Four, and therefore will sit on the bench like he did in the White 1 run kind of guy. Our second encounter though is a certified legend with outsized contributions last run. You could say he provided a lot of value for us, a lot of dough, you know, he earned us a lot of however, due to unfortunate circumstances, the money isn't available right now, so we are instead enlisting his distant cousin. Good credit to throw. His business partners call him GCT. And GCT will be rounding out our team of 6 as we take on Victory Road. At first glance, this iteration of the iconic endgame dungeon kinda pales in comparison to its BW1 counterpart. The cool themed gates have given way to tacky electronic locks. However, once you step inside Victory Road proper, you'll realize that this place is just as, if not more, peak. The scenery is highly varied and interesting, the trainers are actually threatening, at least for a Nuzlocke, and the lore of how the original Victory Road collapsed and gave way to this far more rugged iteration is awesome. Oh, and you can't forget about the iconic Victory Road theme that still plays. BW2 is so cool, man, put it back in S tier. We have one more rival battle to deal with at the end of Victory Road, and although Samurott was a headache and a half to handle, the rest of our rival's team got swept by Sandwich and we ended up just giving him the business one last time. All that remains now is for us to prepare for the Pokemon League. We can employ near identical strategies against the Elite Four as we did in White 1. However, I'm now noticing that I don't have the Shadow Claw TM we crucially need. Where can I find it again? Let me look it up real quick. Fuck! Turquoise, the Simipour, headlines our squad of 6 that we'll be taking into the Elite Four. He will be the only one of our 3 elemental monkeys making the final roster, and he'll be sure to make his brethren proud by clicking Blizzard against Iris and not much else. Sandwich the Clang will also remain dormant until the champion fight, but its Eviolite boosted bulk, steel typing, and patented slow volt switch will be imperative in solving the Iris equation. Unlike last time, Basketball the Crustal isn't just showing up on our team last second to steal the glory. She's earned her place this run through numerous contributions. That being said, she'll be using the exact same strategies to handle Caitlyn and Chantal as she did in White 1. He may not be the money, but good credit to throw is still a worthwhile addition to the team because he'll serve as our Grimsley counter and a lead off against Iris's Hydreigon. After spending our White 1 run contributing nothing, then single-handedly demolishing Marshall before returning to doing nothing again, World Peace the Duosion is back to do it all over again. Not much to say here, except that I swapped out Psyshock for Charm in the off chance World Peace has to click something else besides Reflect or Psychic, which she ideally won't. And for our final team member, I don't know about you guys, but is it getting cold in here? Yep, I'm coming back for him. We desperately need another source of ice type damage for Iris, and Alomomola and Cubchoo are not gonna cut it. That's why I finally decided to take a trek to Undella Bay and acquire a Spheal that we can evolve into Celio and equip with all the bells and whistles he'll need to scare off the dragons. Minecraft Celio will spark fear and despair into his enemies, just like the Minecraft movie did to the poor theater workers. This is our team of 6 who will be challenging the Elite Four. Now remember when I said there were 3 fights I dreaded preparing for? One of them was Terran, the other was Getsis, and the last, you probably thought it was Iris, huh? She was definitely a chore to plan for, but nothing compared to Marshall. This guy's fight is not just a gamble, it's the entire casino. You've got the random move dispenser that is Mine Xiao, Mean Xiao, whatever. Plus the fact that if World Peace gets her speed dropped by throws Rock Tomb or Bulldoze, she'll go from sweeping Marshall's team to being a guaranteed sacrifice against Conch Elder. Finally, there's Sock, who traded out its laughable karate chop from BW1 for Brick Break, a move that shatters screens such as Reflect and Light Screen. And in case you didn't know, this entire fight hinges on World Peace sitting behind Reflect to patch up her otherwise pitiful defenses. World Peace swept Marshall in our previous run, but we had far less variance to worry about and some good fortune go our way. With that in mind, I lead off not with World Peace, but Basketball the Crustal to set up Stealth Rocks. This is for the sole purpose of breaking Sock's sturdy later, because otherwise World Peace will just die to the blue dude before she can finish it off. I switched to Sandwich on a Storm Throw, which sounds bad in theory, but is actually quite manageable since Storm Throw will always crit and thus I'll know precisely how much damage it will do each time. A second Storm Throw will never KO Sandwich, and I'm proven right, as our gear is able to withstand a hit and use its signature slow volt switch to safely usher in World Peace. Before we start swinging, World Peace needs to get up the ever crucial Reflect, which allows her to do things like tank payback from Throw. A single Psychic is enough to take out Throw, and now it's time to go gambling. What Mine Xiao does next is anybody's guess. You'd think it would go for the super effective momentum shifting U-turn, but Marshall's Mine Xiao was presented with this near identical scenario back in White 1, and it picked Retaliate instead. In this current run, however, Mine Xiao ends up using Bounce, which World Peace shrugs off before nabbing the KO. That brings in Sock, whose sturdy ability is nullified by the rocks digging into its flesh. A critical hit here would certainly spell doom for World Peace, but she should otherwise survive any hit thrown her way, even a super effective payback. See, I told ya, totally didn't sweat that one out. World Peace can knock Sock out with a single Psychic, and even though Reflect wears off and Marshall still has his Conch Elder on deck, it gets outsped and obliterated by a single Psychic as well, allowing World Peace to officially snatch Marshall's chain for the second run in a row. In stark contrast to the tightrope act that was our fight against Marshall, Caitlyn is a straightforward reprise of how we handled her in White 1, set up with Basketball and sweep. She gets off a Shell Smash, slices Masharna into pieces, then munches on her Chestoberry to nullify the sleep induced by Masharna's yawn. Basketball is now free to click her stab moves and watch the rest of Caitlyn's team get brushed aside like the Psychic type specialist's voluminous hair. Are you unable to finance your purchases, struggling to make ends meet, unsure of how to defeat a dark-type specialist? Well, you're in luck because you may be eligible for some good credit. Got an annoying Liepard trying to fake you out? Not a problem thanks to Inner Focus. Bisharp in your way? Simply outspeed it with a carefully curated EV spread. Intimidating Crocodile up in your grill? Power through the -1 attack and get the kill anyway. All this crafty financially unstable because it can't handle having good credit. Call today for a free GCT consultation at 1-800-GCT-TOAD. That's 1-800-GCT-TOAD. Please visit goodcreditthrow.com for more information. Rules and conditions may apply. Many will call, none will answer. If you need help slaying dark types, get good with good credit. And if you need actual financial assistance, good luck with that. The final Elite Four member awaits, Chantal and her spooky specters. Just like last time, the plan is to have Basketball click Shell Smash and go hog wild. Unlike last time, Cofagrigus chooses Shadow Ball as its opening salvo instead of Will-O-Wisp. Are you good, Cofagrigus? Maybe it has bad memories of missing Will-O-Wisp last run, but this inexplicable flub allows Basketball to get off a free Shadow Claw to lower the coffin ever deeper into its grave. Cofagrigus seems to realize its mistake and tries for a turn to Will-O-Wisp, only to have it nullified by our held Rostberry. Chantal pops a full restore to try and salvage what's left of this battle, but it's already too late. Basketball is free to finish off Cofagrigus and wipe her butt with the rest of Chantal's team for an easy victory. Thanks for throwing the fight in new and exciting ways, Cofagrigus. I'll leave your payment in a sealed envelope in the usual spot. With the Elite Four vanquished, all that remains between us and the end of this Nuzlocke challenge is a Unova Pokemon League champion, Iris. This group of forgotten oddballs has been through a lot. Trials and tribulations, happiness and heartbreak, and all manner of miracles and mistakes. It's only fitting that their final obstacle is as daunting as the task that brought them all together. But they'll be fine. After all, being the least popular Pokemon doesn't mean anything in the heat of battle. Iris's Hydreigon opens the fight with a powerful Dragon Pulse, but Good Credit shrugs it off with ease. I didn't have the highest hopes for this fight in my initial planning for this run, but I soon came to a shocking realization. GCT dogwalks a majority of Iris's team. Case in point, he hits back with revenge and turns Hydreigon into a fine red mist. I expected Archeops to hit the field next, but Iris sends out Druddigon instead, which is perfect for us. GCT outspeeds Drud every day of the week and can get off a bulk up. While tanking Focus Blast isn't ideal, it's still Focus Blast, so you know it missed the second time Druddigon tried it, giving GCT another free bulk up opportunity. Now sitting at +2 attack and defense, Good Credit can outmuscle Druddigon with a single superpower and still sit pretty at +1 attack after the stat drop, which is enough firepower for a single Storm Throw to topple Aggron as well. Iris finally tosses out Archeops, but the damage has already been done. GCT cordially bows out of his exemplary performance and hands the mic over to Sandwich, who easily shrugs off acrobatics and grinds Archeops to dust with a single critical hit of Gear Grind. Iris's Focus Sash wielding Haxorus takes the field next, and it sees a big super effective hit with Earthquake. However, it's not a KO unless it crits, and I know Sandwich isn't gonna let some axe-faced dragon stop it from doing what it does best, surviving with minuscule amounts of HP before getting off a patented slow volt switch to safely bring in a teammate, that being Minecraft Decilio. What a wild first major battle, huh? Fortunately, with its Focus Sash broken, Haxorus's Dragon Dance is nothing more than an amusing spectacle. A stab, expert boosted Ice Beam from Minecraft is enough to bring down the beast in a single hit. All that remains is Iris's Lapras, who badly misses Sing as GCT takes the stage one last time for the final act. Mustering every last ounce of strength within him, he barrels into Lapras, shredding its health until nary a percentage remains. Our final foe falls, and our challenge has officially concluded. This team, comprised of the least popular Pokemon according to Bulbapedia, has managed to complete a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon White 2. We couldn't have done it without every team member here, including those who cheered us on from the bench. But before we say goodbye to Unova, we ought to celebrate the life and contributions of those who weren't fortunate enough to see our journey to the end. Celestial Tower still sucks though, put this game in F tier.